Hi everybody and welcome to Top Tip Tuesday. Today we're looking at tips about reels and spools, so let's dive straight in. The first tip is to make that leader much larger than it already is. When reels and spools are brand new, they often have a tiny loop at the end of the line that really isn't that much use being that small. Untie that stupid little loop and then you need to retie a much bigger loop that you can actually fit the reel through so that you can quickly and easily attach that line onto something. It needs to be much bigger. Let it go. The worst thing that you can do with a reel or a spool that gets jammed while sending up a DSB is to hold on to it and see if you can fix it valiantly. It's just going to turn you into Mary Poppins and pull you up to the surface. So if your reel jams, just let it go and find it later. Chances are it's gonna still be attached to a bright red sausage that you can find quite easily on the surface later. With brand new spools, double check that the line is actually attached to the spindle properly. The last thing that you want on a stop or just before a stop is to send up your buoy and then the end of the line just kind of pings off the spindle and you're just left with it empty in your hand. It really sucks with longer lines having to undo it all, but unreel it, double check that it's definitely attached. It's quite handy if you can make a hardened section at the very tip of that leader to give you something to grab hold of, just so that you can untie a knot with gloves. Even with bare hands, it can be a little bit fiddly to try and grab and untie a knot on the end, so just use a lengthened section that kind of sticks out a bit. Can just make your life so much easier when you're trying to undo it, especially when you're in the water. The same goes for about 2/3 of the way down the length of the leader loop on a finger spool so that you can pull it through the hole in the side in the water. You want a little section that you can grab hold of that's just poking out next to the hole that you normally poke the leader through to store it away. That gives you just something to pull on when you actually go to use it. Storing your spool, you should never leave it with a bolt snap clipped to the side of the spool because they can unclip themselves without you knowing. So poke the leader through the side of the spindle and attach the bolt snap like this and then lock it off onto that bolt snap so that it's really hard for the bolt snap to break free accidentally, even if it's all inside of a pocket. Even though this is usually called a finger spool with a finger hole in it, try to avoid the temptation to actually poke your finger through said hole. If it pulls in the wrong direction whilst it's turning, it can literally screw tighter onto your finger and then jam, yanking you up by the finger, pointing to everybody around you which way you're going to do a Mary Poppins. Cheaper spools are usually overspun and have too much line on them when they're new. You need clear access to the holes around the sides to use a finger spool properly. So choose one that's a little bit longer than you actually need. Unwind the line when you're checking that it's properly attached and cut off a few meters of that line. Keep the excess line that you cut off, it's quite handy for a lot of things, and then you can tie your leader onto it now. Wind your line back in as evenly as you can as you ascend. If you wind it all on one side, then the lines are going to start cascading and overlapping other layers so that the next time you go to use it, it's going to get to that section and it's going to jam, yanking the reel out of your hand. Keep slack line to a minimum in the water. Ropes and strings have a mind of their own in the water and it has evil thoughts. A lot of lines that we use are buoyant or neutrally buoyant in the water, so they float around you and wrap around your equipment. You then inflate your buoy and it pulls taut, turning you into the rare inverted Mary Poppins, sending you up to the surface by your fins. Try to keep any line as taut as possible at all times so that it's predictable and you don't become a beloved British nanny. If you have any handy tips for other scuba divers, let them know down in the comments below, and head over to simplyscuba.com for the latest scuba reels and spools. I'll put a link down in the description for you. And if you like this t-shirt, remember that you can have one just like it by clicking the banner underneath this video. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.